Welcome back to another episode of the Fifth Quarter Podcast. I'm your host, Marcus Jones, the Bluff City Cowboy, coming to you live from Memphis, Tennessee. And we are continuing our pre-training camp position breakdown tonight. Tonight, we will be discussing the defensive end position. So I hope you guys are ready with your questions, ready with your comments, because as you guys know, the show is fueled by the Fifth Quarter Podcast Nation. Thank you guys for joining tonight. I see we got some views coming in already. So thank you guys who are joining us from X, and also thank you to everyone joining us from Facebook and YouTube. Let's go ahead and get the housekeeping out of the way. First of all, once again, thank you guys for joining. If you guys haven't done so already, make sure you go to the DC4L Facebook group. Go check that out. A lot of great content, a lot of great conversation, a lot of giveaways, a lot of prizes, and just an overall safe space for Cowboys fans to talk about Cowboys topics. We do not allow outside team fans join the group. We have an admin team of about 15 people. We watch the group religiously. We watch comments as well as watching the people who try to attempt to join. So even if one slips through the cracks, we'll catch it pretty quickly. So if you're looking for a safe space for Cowboys fans to come and talk and just discuss Cowboys topics, be sure to check us out over at the DC4L Facebook group. For you guys joining us from Facebook, if you guys get a chance, we have a YouTube channel now. So be sure to go find us a DC4L Facebook group on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Also hit that bell. And then also, if you could, please go find me on YouTube at Bluff City Cowboys. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell. Also, going to be having a lot of great content for you guys coming up, and I don't want you guys to miss anything. And for the people joining us from X, it looks like X is becoming a very fast growing community. If you guys get a chance, please go over to YouTube, find me at Bluff City Cowboys, hit that subscribe button. That 10-second act would mean a world to me to help me towards my path to get my engagement up. So if you guys get a chance, go over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button. All right, so I see we got quite a few people joining in the comments. And for those of you who are joining from YouTube and Facebook, feel free to join and follow the lead of some of these regulars. So we got DJ Dog joining us tonight. Appreciate you tuning in, as always. I got my guy Jeff joining us, as always. Thank you for joining us as well. We got Isaiah Bell joining us from Facebook, DC4L. Thank you for joining us also. And views are still going up. So, guys, if you want to join the dialogue, get in the comments, questions, comments. Let us know where you're from. Let us know how long you've been a Cowboys fan. Let us know where you're watching from. And before we get started, thank you, Casey McCoy, for the like. Casey was the first person to hit that like button, but we have about 40 people watching right now. So let's get those likes to match those views. So everybody, if you're joining us on Facebook, be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to support wherever you're watching from. All right, so the topic tonight is the defensive end position. We're going to pretty much cover the defensive end group, similar to how we did last week. I'm going to give you guys I'm going to break it down by the starters, the backups, the guys that are on the bubble. I'm going to give you my thoughts on how I think these certain players will contribute, and I'll give you the names of a couple of potential free agent signings that we could make. Now, I will give a caveat to this. Personally, I think we're good at the defensive end position, so I don't expect us to sign any defensive ends. But if we do, these two names will probably be at the top of my list just because of familiarity with the scheme, as well as certain traits that those players may possess. Now, before we get into that, we did have a couple of signings today. So the Cowboys were a little bit active. I know We've been getting a little bit spoiled this offseason because they've been making a lot of trades for former first-round picks. They've been filling a lot of positions of need. We got George Pickens. We got Kenneth Murray. We made a couple of signings as well. This is kind of the old Cowboys regime where it's a guy most people haven't heard of. So we made 2 signings today. The first signing was for defensive tackle Perion Winfrey from the UFL, and then the other signing was for cornerback Robert Rochelle. Now, I'm very familiar with both of these guys. Uh, Probably not. DJ Dog says any relation to Oprah? Probably not. If he was and he was close enough, he probably wouldn't be playing football right now. But yeah, Perion Winfrey. Both of these guys are extremely physically gifted. I'll start off with that. But we'll go Perion Winfrey first. Perion Winfrey, I believe, was a 3rd or 4th round pick. I believe it was a 2020 draft. I know he's out of Oklahoma. What I do remember about him was freak athlete. So he was 290 pounds. He's probably closer to 300 now. At the combine, he ran a 4.8 at 290. And his arm length is 35 inches. So he has almost a 7-foot wingspan, and he's only 6'3". So he's one of those guys who can scratch his knees standing straight up. When you're looking for a defensive tackle, if you can't get somebody with a lot of size, you definitely want somebody with long arms, and he has plenty of that. Plus, he has the athleticism. When he came into the NFL, he was about 290. He's probably close to the 300 right now. Jeff says not a good sign for Mozzie. It's definitely going to provide him with some more young competition. I think they came in the same draft, and Winfrey may be younger than Mozzie because I think he entered the draft at like 20 or 21. But I think he's going to be a rotation piece. He's one of those guys who could play the 1 or the 3. So if you decide you want to get a little bit bigger at the 3 tech, you can put Winfrey right there. Or if you want to get a little bit more athleticism at the nose, like on 3rd downs, because let's be honest, we love Jay Toya. Mozzie's growing on people. Neither one of those guys you expect to see on the field on 3rd down. So we can't do NASCAR package every 3rd down when you put 4 defensive ends. At some point, you got to have a big guy in the middle to kind of help control things. So I think this signing is to bring in a young guy with some juice and give you a possible 3rd down nose tackle option. Because again, 4'8", 40, 290, 300 pounds, long arms, has NFL experience, played for the UFL last year, had 30 tackles, had a couple of sacks. So he has experience. You guys know our history with UFL guys. The last 2 were Cavante Turpin, Brandon Aubrey. Our director of player personnel, Will, really does his job when it comes to leaving no stones unturned, checking out the UFL, and plucking out the most talented players. Now, I'm not expecting him to be a starter by no means. I think he's probably still would be considered a borderline on the bubble training camp guy, but I think the traits are there, and I think he fits in a spot that we need as a team. And I would probably be shocked if he doesn't make the team if he performs well. So that takes us to our second free agent, and that is Robert Rochelle. This is another one of those freak athlete type kids. If you go back and look, he's from a small school, Central Arkansas. Former wide receiver, so he has great ball skills. I think he had 20 pass deflections and 9 interceptions his last 2 years of college. That's 2 of the things that got him drafted from a small school. Add on top of that, He runs a 4.3. He has a 43-inch vertical. And he has an 11-foot, 9-inch broad jump. And to give you a comparison, Byron Jones, I'm sure you guys remember this. Byron Jones had a 43-inch vertical also, and he had a 12-foot, 3-inch broad jump, which is the longest in combine history. This kid, Rochelle, is right behind him in terms of athleticism. What hurt him is he's a COVID year guy, so he was forced to play a 5th year, and then by the time he got in the NFL, because he was 24, they expected the light bulb to come on quick, and it didn't. So he bounced around the league quite a bit. All right, Casey McCoy, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you tuning in. Now, Jeff says it's not a good sign for Diggs and Revel. I can see both sides of the fence on that one. DJ Dog coming in and saying, yeah, the rumors by Albert Breer were bogus. I know a lot of people are trying to connect the dots as if Revel must be more injured than we expect, so they bring in another corner. Well, they actually cut a corner to bring this kid in. Now, personally, the traits are crazy. Pure explosiveness. And add to that, he runs a 6.8 3-cone. And if you guys follow the show, you know I love 3-cone. And once you go under 7 in the 3-cone, you're a really quick twitch guy. If you go 6'9", you're at elite. This kid's 3-cone was a 6'8". So that's ridiculously athletic. I think his problem so far in the league, they've been playing him as a boundary corner. I think he's better suited in the slot, but unfortunately, I don't think he has enough experience to catch on that quick. Casey joining us from Rock Hill, South Carolina. Appreciate you tuning in. DJ Dog asked the question, how tall is Rochelle? Rochelle is 5'11 3/4, so just call him 6 feet. So he's a 6-foot corner, super explosive, quick twitch athlete. Came from an extremely small school, and in my opinion, I think he's been played out of position. I think he's been played in the slot, and everybody's been playing him as a boundary corner. And also, I don't think the light bulb has come on yet. So for those two reasons, I think he's more of a special teams guy. He has a slim chance of making his team because I think it's an open competition. But when I look at the signing and I look at the players we have, all the guys we have right now are extremely young, and they're all competing for a starting spot between Revel and Elam and Carson and Awuzie, not Awuzie, and I just went blank on his name, Mukwamu. All of those guys are young guys who don't have a lot of playing experience, and they're all competing for a starting spot. To me, I feel like because those guys are busy competing for that outside spot, it's going to be a heavy rotation of those guys in practice. And what that does to the team, it hurts you on special teams, because special teams is pretty much led by your linebackers, your defensive ends, your tight ends, and your cornerbacks. So if you've got all your young corners competing for a starting spot, that doesn't really leave a lot of guys to run on special teams in training camp. So personally, I feel like Rochelle is just coming in. He's gonna just get a lot of cardio. He's gonna be running a lot of wind sprints. I'm expecting to see him be heavy on kickoff, heavy on punt. He may get some opportunities on defense if he can show himself. But I just think between Elam and Mukwamu and Carson and Revel, whenever he touches the field, we just got a lot of young guys that need to get as many reps as possible on the defense, and that's going to hinder them from playing special teams. So, yeah, he's a Central Arkansas guy, super small school. He's been in the league 4 years, kind of bounced around quite a bit. The light bulb could come on. I'm not taking anything away from him. The only way players can get better is by staying around the league longer. So you never know. He could come here. The scheme could be a perfect fit for him. He uses traits to perfection, and he carves himself out a role as a quality backup. But until I see otherwise, I think he's a special teams guy. But the traits are ridiculous. DJ Dog asked the question, who got cut? Some cornerback I've never heard of. So I wouldn't even, if I saw his name, I wouldn't even know it. But the one that surprised me was they cut Justin Rogers to bring in Winfrey. So when I look at that, I was expecting Rogers to be competing for some playing time. So if they're going from Rogers to Winfrey, that makes me think Winfrey has a good chance of making this team. And plus, when you look at the defensive tackles we have between Toya, Mozzie, Rogers, they're all pretty much the same guy. You're getting a 6'3", 320, 340 pound guy who's good for first and second down. None of those guys are third down guys. So I think you need to bring in a third down defensive tackle. And I think Rogers was just the odd man out, unfortunately. So DJ Dog said Winfrey must have impressed in USFL. I don't think he was set the world on fire, but I just think the traits are too good not to give him an opportunity. I really think that's what happened. He was a former fourth round pick. He's played in the NFL. He's got some starting experience. And I think he's just getting another shot. He was an all UFL player. So he definitely has some talent. I wouldn't say he's the type of guy who can come here and be a starter and make a major impact, but I definitely can see the role that he could possibly fill. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing him in training camp. All right, guys, let's get into the meat of the show. The views are still going up, so thank you guys for joining us once again. For those of you who are watching us from X, if you get a chance at some point during or after the show, go over to YouTube, type in Bluff City Cowboys, hit that subscribe button. Same for everyone joining us from Facebook. If you haven't done so already, go over to YouTube, smash that subscribe button, hit that bell so that you can be up to date on all things Fifth Quarter Podcast and Bluff City Cowboy. All right, so let's get into the show. Tonight's topic is the defensive end position. We're at 20 minutes, so we'll quickly go through all of the defensive ends that we have on the team, and we'll start off at the top, work our way down. So start off first with the projected starters. Now, again, this is the deepest position on the team, in my opinion. And I think we have two very good bookends. We don't get the hype that teams like the Giants or the Browns or the Steelers get because they have some talented high draft pick guys opposite their all-stars. Dante Fowler's a really good defensive end. He was with Dallas a couple of years ago, former third overall pick, pretty much off the field and personality kind of stopped him from becoming the star that he should have been. But he's built a solid career over the course of the, I believe, 8 years he's been in the league. So he was with Dallas for 2 years. He had 6 sacks 1 year, 4 sacks the next as a rotation guy. When Dan Quinn left, we talked about this last year. He was going to poach every defensive player that became available. And, of course, Fowler was one of them. So Fowler went over to the Commanders and had 10 and a half sacks in his first year. Commanders couldn't afford him, so they let him go. And Dallas was fortunate enough to pick him back up again. So if you just go off last year's stats, we have almost 30 sacks between these two guys as our bookends. So you're probably going to have Mike on one side, Fowler on the other side, along with Osa and whoever you put in at nose tackle. Fowler is a pretty good run defender. He's not great, but he's good enough. He's definitely going to be an improvement over what we had last year. Quick twitch on third down. Him and Micah are going to give offensive tackles a lot of trouble. I'm looking forward to seeing this combination on the field quite a bit. So I think these are definitely going to be a projected starters. I know some people say maybe Fowler's going to be your first guy off the bench. I think Fowler's going to be your starting left defensive end. He's about 270, so he's big enough to hold up against right tackles, and he's good enough against the run, like I said before. And last year, as a defensive end, he did have 40 tackles, and he had a couple tackles for loss. So he's not afraid to get his nose dirty and get in the backfield with the offensive lineman. I see we got Chris Woods joining us. Appreciate you tuning in, Chris Woods. I believe Chris, you just had me on your podcast, Football Frenzy, the other day. So thank you guys for inviting me over there. And if you guys who are watching today have a few minutes, go over to YouTube, find Football Frenzy. We had a great show on Monday night, just talking about random Cowboys topics. And I will have the Football Frenzy guys on this show in a couple of weeks to talk training camp. So DJ Dog giving us a full rundown of all the defensive ends. You got Fowler, you got Donovan Ezaraku, Micah, Sam Williams, Peyton Turner, and Nealon, and Wheat. So you pretty much hit on all of them. And then we got one flex guy, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So Jeff asked the question, can Parsons hold up as a full-time end with his size? I would say the answer is yes. Because he may have problems with the tackles because of his lack of size, but he gives the tackles a lot more problems with his speed and explosiveness. So if he can use year 5 to work on his combo moves in terms of avoiding tackles and run defense, I think he's going to be a much better player because no tackle can compete with him when it comes to third and long. So I definitely think he can hold up, Jeff. Great question. And if he can't hold up, that's when we go to our next person and we look at our backups. So when you look at the backups, we got two extremely young guys. We got Donovan Ezaraku, and Jeff brings up the point. He seems to wear down as the season progresses. That's exactly why we drafted Donovan easy, in my opinion, because like you said, Micah has a tendency to wear down. But when you put him at linebacker like the fans want to do, you lose a lot of pass rush in your front four. I think Donovan Ezaraku helped solve that problem because he was not only one of the best run defenders in college last year, he was also one of the best pass rushers. So, question came right on time, Jeff. If Parsons can't hold up full time, you can always bring Ezaraku off the bench, plug him in at right defensive end, and let Micah get a couple of breathers standing up at linebacker, reading the quarterback, or just using his speed and just completely avoiding the center and running right by him. And if you don't like that as an option, we got another option for you, because Donovan Ezeraku was the second round pick this year. Last year we used the second round pick on Marshawn Nealand. What I like about Marshawn Nealand is he is great at holding up at the point of attack. He plays a lot bigger than his size. He has heavy hands. He has a lot of power in his lower body. So he's great at exploding off the line, shocking right tackles, and holding up the point of attack. So if you don't feel like Donovan EZ is ready to step in for Micah, you can always bring in Marshawn Nealand at left end. You can put Dante Fowler at right end, and then you can still let Micah get some breathers by standing up. Or if these two young guys on the screen step up, you may even be able to have some opportunities where Micah can get some breathers on the sideline, because these guys can help fill in the gaps to let Micah take 5 to 10 snaps off when he normally has to play every snap in the game. DJ Dog bringing up a great point. White Cotton is big on having a rotation to keep Micah and guys with juice for the fourth quarter. Definitely agree with that. That's exactly the reason why they drafted Donovan Ezeraku, because, like you said, this scheme is all about bringing in fresh guys, having a heavy rotation, and everybody having juice on every snap. It's all about playing with your hair on fire, playing smart, and playing to the point of attack. So I think just looking at the first 4 defensive ends, I think all 4 of them are starter quality. Like if you put Nealand or Ezeraku on any other team that's average to above average, I think you can sub one of them out for the defensive end on their team, and I think they would be just as good, if not better. So to me, we have 4 legit starters, and we have a nice rotation of guys who can come in and perform well. So now we talked about the starters and we talked about the backups. Now we got to take it a step further. Now this is the third level. And I call these guys the special teams guys / bubble guys. And it's weird seeing Tyus Wheat and Sam Williams on the screen as bubble guys. But we got to be honest. If you look at the 2 guys I just showed you before, and we know what Sam Williams is. In college, he had great traits. He's shown small flashes in NFL, but those flashes have been overshadowed by boneheaded mistakes. To me, Ezeraku's already a better pass rusher than Sam Williams. Marshawn Nealand is a better run defender than Sam Williams. So there's no scenario where Sam Williams can leapfrog either one of them and be able to touch the field on a consistent basis. So for me, that puts him borderline on the bubble. We're probably only going to keep 5 defensive ends. I think the top 4 are a lock. And while I do like Sam Williams as a player, because I think he has a lot of value, I think some other teams around the league are going to see that value as well. And that value may become too good to keep on your bench as your 5th defensive end. Also remember, there's a strong chance Sam Williams may be your starting gunner. I don't know if you read my notes or not, Jeff, but as I said that, you typed it in. Yes, Sam Williams was the gunner on punt team. More than likely, if he's healthy, he'll probably assume that role again in training camp and preseason. So that's why I put him as a special teams guy. I don't think he'll get cut. So DJ Dog, I agree. He won't get cut, but there's a chance he won't be on the team because the value he has is too high to pass up by letting sit on the bench. Let's say The Commanders is too easy. Let's say the Falcons, for example. The Falcons just drafted 2 defensive ends. Let's say because they're rookies and neither one of them are household names, that neither one of these guys shows up to their potential in the preseason and training camp. I would think that the Falcons would be on the phone with the Cowboys immediately for a guy like Sam Williams. And we could probably get about a 4th or 5th round pick for him. And Dallas loves 4th and 5th round picks. The Bengals defense is awful right now. And I don't know if you guys are aware, because I know a lot of Cowboys fans only focus on the Cowboys, but there's a major contract dispute going on between their 1st round pick and the front office, where this kid may sit out and re-enter the draft next year. So let's assume they just used a top 15 pick on a defensive end, and that guy doesn't play a snap for him. So now add to the fact that Trey Hendrickson is in a contract dispute. They're pretty much depleted at the defensive end position. Where else could they go to find a quality, young, athletic defensive end? They're going to call the Dallas Cowboys. So Sam Williams is going to have a market, and of the four guys in front of him, none of those guys are getting moved. So I think there's a strong chance that Sam Williams gets moved in the offseason. But it will depend on him showing that he is healthy. DJ Dog said Sam reminds him of Hollywood Henderson, elite athlete. He says also, I only trade Sam the Falcons for Pitts the tight end. I don't think they would make that trade straight up. We would have to give something else up. Well, I take that back. Kyle Pitts has a pretty big cap hit because of his 5th year option. So that's going to take his trade value down. I still don't know if that's enough to make him for Sam Williams an even trade, unless the Falcons just get extremely desperate. But yeah, I think Sam Williams has to come back healthy, and it's going to be a catch-22 for him, because I think the better he plays, the more he's going to build his market to be traded. So if he does well, I think he's out of here. If he doesn't do well, I think he sits on the bench for another year. So it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation for Sam Williams, in my opinion. The next guy on this list is Tyus Wheat. Now, Tyus Wheat is a guy who stuck around for, it seems like forever, but it's been 3 years, I believe. Not extremely athletic, not built like a traditional defensive end. He's only 6'2", about 260 pounds, but he is a hard-nosed, grinded out, tough player. He's going to give you every ounce of energy he has on every snap, and he is a really good run defender and a great special teamer. So those 3 things I think are going to help keep him around. So if you have to choose between trading Sam Williams and keeping Tyus Wheat, or cutting Tyus Wheat and keeping Sam Williams, I think the option is going to be trade Sam and keep Tyus as your 5th guy, and then see what you can work out with him. So it's going to be very interesting in training camp to see how much Sam Williams gets used, where he gets used at, and how he looks. Because this is the one player that I think kind of controls his destiny on whether or not he plays either here or somewhere else. The other guys in the defensive end group, I think as long as they don't play terrible, they're going to be on the field a lot. Sam's the only one I think has to really outplay one of these guys to not only overplay them, but to stay on the team. So it's going to be interesting. DJ Dog says Carolina's loaded with running backs. Sam for Jonathan Brooks. I don't know if you know this, DJ Dog, but Jonathan Brooks is out again for the season with another ACL injury. I want no parts of Jonathan Brooks. I don't think Dallas will go player for player with Sam. I think we traded a pick for Joe Milton. I believe we traded a 4th for Kenneth Murray. We traded a 3rd for George Pickens. They're going to want to try to at least recover that 4th or get a 4th, 5th round pick so that they can possibly be able to trade back into the 4th next year. I don't see us going 3 years in a row without a 4th round pick. So I would expect Sam Williams to either get moved for a 4th or get a 5th that they can package next year to get back in the 4th. I don't think it'll be player for player. The only way it'll be player for player is if we just, God forbid, have an injury to a position and we just need to get an asset we can use to trade for that position. Sam will be that asset. All right, so we talked about the starters. We talked about the backups. These guys on the bubble. Now we have one more player that nobody talks about, and I think this kid is a complete wild card, and that is former first-round pick Peyton Turner from the New Orleans Saints. Now, I also think this is a reason why Sam Williams could possibly get moved, because this kid on a super cheap contract, former first-round pick, a ton of talent. The only problem with him was he was injured quite a bit in New Orleans, and because he basically played the same position as Cameron Jordan, they had to play him out of position at right end, which he's not, and he didn't get a lot of snaps at left end, his natural position. So if he can come into camp and he's healthy, I think he's going to be another major piece at that left defensive end position. And he's going to make it a lot easier to possibly trade a guy like Sam Williams away. I think he's going to give you some quality snaps at the 3 tech as well. So he'll replace the guy we just lost in free agency. Sorry, the name escapes me. But I think Peyton Turner has a lot of talent, a lot of good traits. I don't want to see him at right defensive end, but I think he gives you enough at left defensive end to where if you want to give Micah some breathers, you've got a guy like a Peyton Turner. You can move Fowler to the right, put Peyton Turner at the left. Thank you, Jeff. Chauncey Golston. He's a Chauncey Golston type guy. Peyton Turner's the type of guy you can move guys around. And when we go into that NASCAR package and you want to have four pass rushers, I think he can be your 3 tech. And you can have Micah, Fowler, Peyton Turner, also Diggy Zua. So I think he gives you some juice in terms of being able to shift inside on obvious pass downs as well. But it's a complete wild card because he's shown flashes, but because of injuries and lack of playing time, he hasn't had a chance to really show consistently. I love our defensive line coach, White Cotton. I think he's going to pull the best out of a lot of players on his team. And I think if healthy, Peyton Turner's going to be one of them, because Peyton Turner's like 270. He's 6'5", long wingspan, great at knocking the ball down, knows how to use leverage, and he's a smart player. So again, we just got to see him stay healthy, and we got to see him put the pieces together. And I think Andrew Whitecotton is the person that can help him kind of be the best version of himself. So I'm really looking forward. If I had to name one guy, and we're going to do this on a show in the future, But if I had to name one guy who's not a household name that I'm looking forward to seeing how they produce in training camp, Peyton Turner's at the top of my list. All right, so talked about the starters, talked about the backups. We got guys on the bubble. I could have probably included Peyton Turner as a bubble guy as well because he has a cheap contract. And again, a lot of injuries. We don't know what he is. Luckily for him, I think he's going to start off playing a lot with the third team, the third unit. So he's going to have some opportunities to go against guys who aren't as athletic as him. So he should be able to show flashes early if he has it. Now, if we go into training camp and he's playing with the third unit and we don't even see him on the field, that's not going to be a good sign for him. All right, so not a lot of questions and comments tonight, guys. We're at 42 minutes. I'm down to my last 2 slides, so we'll probably get out of here early tonight. So if you guys have any questions, any comments, feel free to get in the chat. As you guys know, we're fueled by Cowboys Nation. It's been pretty much Jeff and DJ Dog all night. I would love to hear what some of you guys think about the defensive end position, any questions you may have, any players you want me to talk about that aren't defensive ends. All right, let's keep the show moving until we see some more comments. So now, if you guys remember last week, we talked about defensive tackles, and I named you some guys with position flex. And as my guy with position flex, I gave you guys Peyton Turner as a guy who can play defensive end or defensive tackle. So tonight we're doing position flex of guys who can play defensive tackle and defensive end. And there's no better person than Solomon Thomas. Solomon Thomas was a first-round pick, I believe, 3rd overall. He was originally drafted as a defensive end. I'm sure you guys have seen the photos and videos circulating. The guy's jacked. Probably a 5% body fat type guy at 275, 280. Super strong. Not really twitchy, and I think that's part of because of the muscle mass that he has, but he's strong, he's super smart, he understands the position. He's played his entire career with White Cotton, our defensive line coach. So he understands exactly what White Cotton's looking for at all 4 positions. I think there are going to be some opportunities for him to play some defensive end. Especially, let's say there's a game where I'm trying to think of an example. A team like Philly, big offensive line, they may look at our pass rushers and get afraid and say, you know what? We're just going to line them up and try to run it down their throats. In a game like that, like Jeff brought up earlier, Micah may get worn down. Fowler may get worn down. You put a big guy like Solomon Thomas in at defensive end, and that helps solidify your run defense because he's a great run defender and he's got enough size to hold up at any position. So I think we're going to see a lot of him at defensive end. They're emphasizing the run. He's going to be a great depth guy. God forbid somebody gets hurt. I think he can fill in a pinch, be a 3 or 4 game starter, give you some quality snaps at defensive end. So yeah, Jeff, White Cotton started off at San Francisco. He was with Robert Saleh. So the year Solomon Thomas was drafted was Saleh's first year as the DC. So this was their first pick. So Saleh takes the head coaching job with the Jets. He brings White Cotton along with him. The next year, the Niners don't re-sign Solomon Thomas. Goes straight to the Jets. So now Solomon Thomas, White Cotton play with the Jets. Robert Saleh gets fired. And you can look up this story. He talked about it on a couple of interviews. White Cotton did. He said when he was cut, He said when Robert Saleh was gonna get fired, the last game of the year, after the game, he went into the stands and found Solomon Thomas's parents, and he told them that I know this is probably my last game with the Jets. It's probably going to be your son's last game with the Jets also, but I guarantee you, wherever I land at, I'm going to make sure he comes with me. And he kept that promise. So Thomas and White Cotton are joined at the hip. Thomas knows the scheme better than anybody. And he's going to be a valuable piece for us as the season progresses at defensive tackle or defensive end. So Jeff says, I definitely don't think we bring in any free agents. To be honest, I'm right there with you, Jeff. I mean, I just gave you guys the list. We're deep at defensive end. I mean, from the starters are capable of giving you 30 sacks, probably top 3 to 5 in the league. Your backups are both second-round picks. Neither one of them have been in the league more than 2 years. Both of them extremely talented, great at the run. Donovan Ezaraku's great against the pass. Marshawn Nealon still learning how to be a pass rusher, but still really talented. These are your top 4. Then you go to the next level, and you've got your bubble guys, and you've got another second round pick in Sam Williams. So your top 5 defensive ends consist of 2 first-round picks and 3 second-round picks. And only one of them has been in the league for more than 5 years. So that's a lot of youth, and that's a lot of talent at one position. And then you throw in Peyton Turner, and now you've got a 6th player who's a former first-round pick and has been in the league less than 5 years. So now you got 3 first, 3 seconds in your defensive end group. And then you throw in the position flex. You got Solomon Thomas. So now you have 6 defensive ends who are either first or second round picks. When you have that kind of talent, it's going to be hard to convince them to bring somebody else in off the street. But let's assume that they do. I'm going to give you guys a couple of names to be aware of as some possible free agent signings. Again, heaven forbid somebody gets hurt in camp and we've got the depth, but a roster spot opens up and you want to take a flyer on somebody. So the first guy is a familiar name, Carl Lawson. He was on the practice squad last year. We were decimated with injuries. He had to come in and step up. Micah missed some games. Nealon missed some games. D-Law missed pretty much the whole season. Carl Lawson was forced to step in and give us some quality snaps. And for a guy his age, I think he did remarkably well. I mean, he had, I believe, 5 sacks in 3 starts, 1 multiple sack game. He's a veteran guy. He knows the system. I think if we need another veteran in the room, or if somebody gets injured, I think Carl Lawson will and should be the first phone call that they make. He's one of those guys where I talk about it all the time. Veterans don't like working out. When you're a guy who's been in the league for 10 years and you're a free agent, like a Stephon Gilmore, a Carl Lawson, any of these defensive tackles, you don't want to go through the rigors of minicamp. You don't want to run wind sprints. You don't want to be forced to sit in meetings. I mean, you've been in the league 7-8 years. There's not a scheme you don't know, especially if you're you're a player who's played in a scheme that's similar. So if something happens, I'm thinking Carl Lawson will be one of the first phone calls they make. Then that takes us to the second guy. Mendoza's not here tonight, but this is another one of his Florida State guys, DeMarcus Walker, a guy that I really loved coming out of college. He was drafted by the Denver Broncos. At the time, the Broncos ran a 3-4 defense. In my opinion, he just did not fit as a 3-4 defensive end. He's more of a 4-3 guy. So he has a lot of familiarity with the scheme because he played with Chicago and Matt Eberflus last year. 6'4", 280, 275. Strong, not a great pass rusher, not super athletic, but if you need a guy who can be a good run defender, I think he can definitely give you that. So if you decide you want to kind of blitz the right defensive end group with Parsons and Fowler and Ezeraku, and the cover becomes a little bare on the left side, you can bring in a guy like DeMarcus Walker, and he can help create a rotation on that left side, along with the Sam Williams and Marshawn Nealon. So Carl Lawson, DeMarcus Walker, two names to be aware of in case the team decides to sign some free agents. And again, DeMarcus Walker played for the Bears last year. So he doesn't have to come into camp. He knows the scheme already. It's the same scheme he ran last year. So just for fans who get excited because we haven't made the moves they think that we should be making, just realize if it's a guy who's been in the league for more than 7 years, 9 times out of 10, they don't want to sign with the team until training camp begins, because players don't get paid in the offseason unless your contract has a workout bonus in it. And the only guys whose contracts have workout bonuses are guys that teams don't believe in to work out on their own. So if you're a smart, hardworking guy, more than likely your contract will not have a workout bonus in it. So you're basically coming to the facilities for free. And if you're a 1-year contract player, they're not putting a workout bonus in your contract. More than likely your contract is going to be 1 year, whatever your salary is, and that salary is going to be guaranteed. But there's not going to be any pay if you sign today, if you show up in the locker room tomorrow. You're just there because you're under contract. So for that reason, a lot of guys like your Linval Josephs and your Stephon Gilmores and Ndamukong Suh a couple years back, probably Carl Lawson also, those guys do not want to sign a contract right now. So fans, I just want to add I want to throw that in. Relax, temper your expectations. Just because the team has assigned who you want right now, if that guy's still available, it's more than likely that guy does not want to sign more than the team doesn't want to sign him. So I think the training camp date has officially been set for July 21st. I think that's a Monday. So I would probably expect, if we're going to sign some free agents that the fans would know, those free agents are probably going to get signed anywhere around the 17th, 18th, 19th. That would be the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, as the team starts to move towards Oxnard. So that July 17th show we're going to do is probably going to be a show, if there are free agents, it's going to be a lot to discuss. All right, guys, so that's pretty much all I have. Once again, this was the defensive end group. In my opinion, it's the deepest group on the team. A lot of talent, a lot of youth, but at the same time, experience. A lot of former first and second round picks. All these guys have played quite a bit, and I think they're going to build a formidable pass rush and be able to help stop the run with White Cotton and Eberflus leading the way. All right, so that's pretty much all I got for tonight. Next week, I think I'm going to combine linebackers and safeties. I'm going to take a look at how deep the numbers are to see if I'm going to combine them. If the numbers are more than 10, I'll probably split them up. But if it's 10 or less total, I'm probably going to combine linebackers with safety. So we'll talk about linebacker position. We'll talk about all these undrafted free safeties and strong safeties that we've signed. Give you guys a little bit more information about Jack Sanborn and Kenneth Murray and all these other new guys who joined the team. I'll give you my thoughts on who I think starts, who I think will be the backup, and who I think is on the bubble, because I think that safety group is going to be really interesting in terms of who's on the bubble. And even though we've signed a lot of guys and traded for some guys, there's still some opportunities to grow both of those positions. So I'm going to give you guys a couple of names at linebacker and safety that the Cowboys can look at as some possible training camp additions. So Jeff, as I was talking, you asked the question, because training camp is training camp's only 4 weeks away, and I still got 3 positions left on defense, and I have not even touched offense yet. So I gotta start combining some of these position groups. I know I'm probably gonna combine tight end and running back. I probably won't even talk about quarterback because that one's pretty self-explanatory. But I'm probably gonna start off by combining linebackers and safeties. But if not, it'll be just linebackers. So thank you guys for joining. We got B Bird joining us at the end. Appreciate you tuning in. We're at the end of the show, but it's always a pleasure to have you pop your head in and say what's up. So definitely appreciate you tuning in. I see you're watching from YouTube. So thank you for subscribing. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you hit that subscribe button on your way out. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show tonight. Gave you a lot of information. I hope I didn't overload you guys too much, but got a lot to discuss and a little bit of time before we get to training camp. And remember, you guys can always catch us every Wednesday night at 8:30 Central Standard Time on Facebook, YouTube, and X for the Fifth Quarter Podcast. July, let me look at my calendar to make sure I give you guys the right dates. We've got a couple of guests coming on the show. So July 9th, I believe, July 9th and July 16th, we will have guests on the show. One of the guys, I think on the 9th, is a guy that a lot of you guys are familiar with. He has ties to the team. He's going to give us some insights on what he thinks about the team. And then on the 16th, I just did a podcast with two guys with a podcast called Football Frenzy. I'm going to have those guys on my podcast, hopefully on the 16th, and we're going to discuss some of the things to look for as we enter training camp. So we got some great shows coming up. Got some guests. Because of that, I got to squeeze in some more positions. So I definitely appreciate you subscribing, B-Bird. For all you guys that are watching on X and watching on Facebook, make sure you follow B-Bird's. Follow what B-Bird did and hit that subscribe button. Make sure you guys tune in every Wednesday. Next week, I hope you guys get back in those comments like you usually do, because again, the show is fueled by you guys. So get those questions in, get those comments in. Let me hear what you guys think about what we can expect from this season with the Cowboys. Be sure to join us every Wednesday, 8:30 Central Standard Time. I'll probably be doing a collab with another podcast before training camp enters. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, because I won't always be on DC4L. So if you guys want to catch me outside of the Fifth Quarter Podcast, go to YouTube, hit that subscribe button as well. Appreciate everyone who tuned in. I always appreciate you guys' support. And as always, let's go Cowboys. I will see you guys next week.